ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। अष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद यद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so verse 8. Sri Narada Vacha भवतानुदित प्रायं यशो भगवतो मलं येनैवासौ न तुष्येत मन्ये तद्दर्शनं किलम्. Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless." Hmm. So this is the cause. Directly, Narada Muni is not mincing words, is directly answering. You are not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That is the problem. That is the reason for your lamentation. So you've given so much of philosophy, but if that philosophy does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord, it is considered worthless. The eternal relation of an individual soul with the supreme soul personality of Godhead is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the eternal master. The Lord has expanded himself as living entities in order to accept loving service from them, and this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living being. So this is very important. Lord has expanded himself as living beings just to accept loving service from them. So the whole reason for our existence is to offer loving service to Krishna. So when we engage in sense gratification, or when we do anything which is not in line with this, that contradicts the whole reason for our existence. We have been created only for offering loving service to him. And this alone can satisfy. This alone can satisfy. And no wonder people are trying so many things in this material world, but nothing is satisfying them. Nothing is satisfying them. Nothing is making them happy. And that is because we are not doing what we are supposed to do, or what the reason why we have been created is to offer loving service. And if we do that, then we'll get satisfied, we'll get happiness. And this accepting loving service is satisfies the Lord also. So when we offer loving service, we are satisfied, Lord is also satisfied. So that is why this bhakti is so powerful, because when we do that, we are satisfied, Lord is satisfied, so we are also satisfied. So it's a very powerful process. But the whole process of material sense gratification is only to try and satisfy the living beings. And because the Lord is not satisfied by that, living beings are also not satisfied. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva completed many expansions of the Vedic literatures, ending with Vedanta philosophy, but none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. It is all indirectly glorifying, because Vedanta Sutra is about Brahman, which is the effulgence coming from the body of the Lord, but he is not directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it's not that he is not directly glorified at all, but the if you take the essence of the other scriptures, the essence of the other scriptures is not directly glorifying Lord. Yeah, it is glorifying some other aspect of the Lord, which is mainly Brahman. Dry philosophical speculations, even on the transcendental subject of the absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. So this is the reason. Sometimes we get bewildered when there is a temp class in a given by ISKCON devotee, but say there is no mention about Krishna. Hmm. If there is no direct glorification of Lord, then even if it might be some transcendental subject, but still it is it will have very little attraction. But unfortunately, people are attracted also, even if there is no direct glorification of the Lord, because that will be explained in the next verse and next couple of verses, I think. Um, so it's very important that even when there is any discussion, transcendental subject matter, it should directly deal with glorification of Krishna, um, because we are society for Krishna consciousness. How can we hide Krishna? We cannot. We can talk about mundane values and this and that and all that, but that's not really going to satisfy the soul, right? That's just it's the same thing. It's a continuation of the worthless literature that is out there. That if we also talk about transcendental subject matters without directly dealing with the glorification of Krishna, the person who got it is the last word in transcendental realization. The absolute realized as impersonal Brahma or localized supersoul Paramatma is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. See, so somebody who is Brahman realized, Paramatma realized, they cannot experience as much transcendental bliss as the one as a devotee. Why? Because of supreme personal realization of his glories. And this is personal realization. This is impersonal realization. This whole Brahman, etc. So personal realization of his glories, supreme person, supreme personal realization. Such a special word. So it is very important that it should directly deal with glorification of the Lord. That is why Bhagavata Purana is so powerful, and because it directly deals with glorification of Krishna. The compiler of the Vedanta Darshana is Vyasadeva himself. Yet he is troubled, although he is the author. So, what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Oh, so this is such a powerful statement. So, here Prabhupada is saying Vyasadeva is the compiler of Vedanta Darshana, yet he is troubled, though he is the author. No. First of all, if the author himself is troubled by a subject matter, then I mean he's written something, he himself is troubled, he is not happy. How will the readers be happy? This is number one. Now Prabhupada is making one more statement here. What sort of transcendental bliss can be delivered by readers and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, which means this is Mayavada explanation. Explanation of Vedanta which is not explained the Vedanta which is as explained by Vyasadeva only will not give transcendental bliss. Now, what about Vedanta which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva? Hmm. Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because this is a natural commentary, so Vedanta Sutra itself did not, it troubled Vyasadeva. Something which is not directly given by Vyasadeva in Vedanta Sutra also cannot give transcendental bliss. Therefore, there is a necessity of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is actually the natural commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Um,
यथा
sorry, Prabhu.
धर्मादयश्चार्था मुनिपर्यानुकीर्तिताः न तथा वासुदेवस्य महिमा ह्यनुवर्णिताः वर्णितः. Although great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with the religious performances, is Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality Vasudeva. The prompt diagnosis of Sri Narada is at once declared. Root cause of the despondency of Vyasadeva was his deliberate avoidance of glorifying the Lord in his various editions of the Puranas. A deliberate avoidance of only glorifying. Like I said, it's not that he didn't glorify at all, but the central theme was not glorification of the Lord. He certainly, as a matter of course, given description of the glories of the Lord, but not as many as given to Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha. So Prabhupada is clarifying. It's not that he's not given at all, but he's not given as much. as he is given to dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These four items are by far inferior to engagement in devotional service of the Lord. So we should not be, as devotees, we should not be engaged in dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Because these four items are by far inferior. Krishna is saying sarva dharman parityaja. So all religiosity has to be dropped. Artha is anyway, Krishna is saying yoga kshemam vahamyam. So we don't have to worry about economic development. Sense gratification anyway is bondage. Engaging in service of Krishna anyway satisfies the senses. And bhakti, salvation is waiting at the doorstep of a devotee. So there is no use. Dharmartha kama moksha is absolutely inferior compared to bhakti. But still somehow devotees are engaged in this some form of dharma. Okay, not maybe not much, but out of artha and kama, this still continues. And this is mixed devotion. If this continues, then this is called mixed devotion. And this is not what satisfies Krishna. Krishna Akarshini is Kevala Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti, not Mishra Bhakti. Mishra Bhakti is just is better than complete sense gratification, karmi, right? But it's not the topmost. So we have to understand that clearly it's inferior. So why should we waste our time engaging in this? Srila Vyasadeva, as the authorized scholar, knew very well this difference. And still, instead of giving more importance to the better type of engagement, namely devotional service to the Lord, he had more or less improperly used his valuable time, and thus he was despondent. And this will be the same for everybody who engages in these activities, more than required. Yeah, bare minimum is required for maintenance. Somebody needs to earn some money, etc. But it should be just bare minimum. Bhagavatam says that one should occupational duty should be used for just for bare existence, just for living. That's all, keeping the body and soul together, not more. Because otherwise, just like here Vyasadeva has written all that, but he more or less improperly used his valuable time, and thus he was despondent. The people who engage like this in their life also more or less have would have used improperly used their valuable time, and thus they will be despondent. From this, it is clearly indicated that no one can be pleased substantially without being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. And see, this is the point. Pleased substantially. We can be pleased by material things, temporary material things, but we cannot be pleased substantially. In the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is clearly mentioned. After liberation, which is the last item in the line of performing religiosity, moksha, one is engaged in pure devotional service. This is Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, na sochati na kankshati, samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. This is called the stage of self-realization, or the Brahma Bhuta stage. After attainment of this Brahma Bhuta, one is satisfied. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Satisfaction means Prasanna Atma. Atma is Prasanna. Atma is satisfied. But satisfaction is the beginning of transcendental bliss. So there is a huge difference between satisfaction and bliss. Satisfaction is just the beginning of transcendental bliss, meaning it's a very, what do you say, lower grade of bliss, meaning beginning, just beginning stage. But people are, by this only, they are so happy that they don't feel like more, they want more. Gnanis are happy with this, just this satisfaction. And then imagine what is the quality of transcendental bliss. So we should understand this. Prasannatma is required. It's bare minimum. And what does the person in Prasannatma stage do? Na sochati na kankshati. Na sochati na kankshati. So which means one should progress by attaining neutrality and equality. Samasarveshu bhuteshu. So basically, this neutrality and equality in the relative world, which means we should not be too affected by anything ups and downs of this material world. We should see everything, every person equally. That is the stage of Brahma Bhuta. Na sochati, na kankshati. Na sochati does not lament. Na kankshati doesn't aspire anything, doesn't desire for anything. And whatever situation comes, tam stitikshasva bharata. And when we are able to practice this, only then we'll come to Brahma Bhuta. If you don't come to Brahmabhuta, there's no question of pure devotional service, because pure devotional service actually starts only at Brahmabhuta. Devotional service doesn't start at Brahmabhuta. Pure devotional service starts at Brahmabhuta. Right? So Brahmabhuta, so is everybody has to reach. All devotees have to reach this Brahmabhuta, which means neutrality, equality, equanimity, basically not being affected by the material world around us. That is Brahmabhuta. And that is why this has to be practiced. That is the reason why we say we have to come to the mode of goodness. If we don't come to the mode of goodness, then we cannot come to Brahmabhuta. Brahmabhuta is mode of goodness, at least, right? Then one can transcend. Then one can start pure devotion service and then transcend. Mm. So this is very, very important. Otherwise we will not be able to make progress. So when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam works in two ways. One is directly the subject matter, if it is heard sincerely with an open heart to bring about a change, then just by the Shravanam it will bring about change. Second is we should think about the subject matter also, Mananam, right? Like, oh, here Prabhupada is saying one should progress by attaining neutrality and equality. And then we should try for that. We should attempt, right? And why will we succeed more than possibly many people would have taken New Year vows, right? Like, why would we succeed? Because we will get the mercy of the Acharyas and Guru Acharyas and Krishna, because we are trying to sincerely endeavor to follow whatever they're saying. So it's not our strength, it is their mercy, right? But we have to try. We cannot just leave it. If we don't try endeavor at all, then what will happen is of course, bhakti is so powerful that if we do it wholeheartedly, then all these will naturally happen. But if these things are themselves becoming an impediment for bhakti, meaning say somebody is so much affected by material things that they're not able to chant properly, they're not able to do their shravanam properly, and then how will they make progress? Right? So, which means that at least to some extent we should keep these things at bay, at least to that extent that it doesn't trouble us and becomes a deterrent in our bhakti. Pratikula. But as long as it is not pratikula, if it is pratikula, then we should do varjanam. Pratikulasya varjanam. Hmm. So we have to try a little bit and beg for mercy. Guru, Acharyas, Krishna. But it's not like it's not an auto mode, meaning it's not that, yeah, I will keep doing bhakti. At some point of time, I'll become neutral and equal in this relative world. Yeah, that is provided that not being neutral, not being equal in this relative world is not adversely affecting our bhakti, resulting in us not performing proper bhakti. Then we are not going to reach, we'll not be able to overcome this neutrality and equality, etc. Right? So basically, to summarize, one is we have to practice, as we practice bhakti, bhakti is very powerful, so it will have its own effect. But at the same time, if our anarthas are too overpowering to such an extent that it's not letting us do bhakti at all, then we have to try and endeavor a little bit as well to keep those things away. And for that, of course, we need the invaluable association of great devotees. Right? So, and we should understand only after passing this stage, one is fixed in transcendental loving service. So that real pure bhakti will manifest only after we become we become little indifferent towards this material world. Because otherwise, all the time we are just thinking about these things only. We are thinking about material things. So how can we think about Krishna? And love means that should be the most important thing for us. If we are so affected by material things, then and we will have love for material things. But how will that get replaced by love for Krishna? There can be only one place, one thing there in that place, right? Taking our attention, taking our love, which has to be Krishna. If that is material thing, if that is position, la puja, pratishtha, our house, our children, grandchildren, society, this, that, and all that, then how can love for Krishna manifest in that place? There's no place at all. Assume, say, we have one place in our heart. It can have only one thing. And if we have given that place for material things, then how can transcendental loving service manifest there? And this is the instruction of the person who got it in the Bhagavad Gita. Conclusion is that in order to maintain the status quo of the Brahmabhuta stage, as also to increase the degree of transcendental realization, Narada recommended to Vyasadeva that he should now eagerly and repeatedly describe the path of devotion and service. This would cure him from gross despondency. And the same quality, if we do bhakti eagerly and repeatedly, that will also cure us from all gross despondency. But this we have to do. If our anarthas are preventing us, hold on to somebody who will keep pulling. Pull. That's why, uh, when new people come to devotion service, we make sure that we call them. We They don't come for 1 week. We call them. We follow up. We try to build a relationship because their own anarthas are preventing them from coming to the satsang, etc. Right? Um, so we have to give them an opportunity to come repeatedly. So we'll keep trying. So then repeatedly they come for 5, 10 times, then they'll get used to it. Then they'll be happy coming. So this is very important. Okay. नयद्वचश्चित्रपदं हरेर्यशो जगत्पवित्रं प्रगृणीत कर्हिचित् तद्वायसं तीर्थमुशन्ति मानसा न यत्र हंसा निरमन्त्युशिक्षयाः. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. So all other literature that does not describe the glories of the Lord is compared to like a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. All perfect persons don't derive any pleasure there. Imperfect persons or semi-perfect persons still derive some pleasure from this crow-like literature which is meant for crows. Crows and swans are not birds of the same feather because of their different mental attitudes. The fruity workers or passionate men are compared to the crows, whereas the all perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate fruity workers take pleasure in wine and women, and places for gross sense pleasure. So if we should not be addicted to this, because then we are like crows. The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. Right? So we should feel out of place when we have to go to these places where crows have assembled, which are basically sense gratifiers. Right? We should not feel pleasure. They're instead seen in the atmosphere of natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers in variegated colors of natural beauty. So just imagine this. And one place where there is a lot of garbage and a lot of crows. And this place, atmosphere of natural scenic beauty. There is transparent reservoirs of water, and then there are lots of lotus flowers in variegated colors of natural beauty. Just imagine how beautiful this will be. And compare that with garbage place where crows have come to pick things up. So we should want to be in this kind of atmosphere, not in the atmosphere of garbage. So we should not relish that literature, nor should we relish the association of people who relish such literature. That is the difference between two classes of birds. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it is not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file, meaning crows and swans are not the same. There is difference. Similarly, there are different kinds of literature for different types of men of different mentality. Mostly the market literatures which attract men of prose categories are literatures containing refused remnants of sensuous topics. Refused remnants of sensuous topics. Basically, money, women, these things. They're generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross mind and subtle mind. Mundane talks. And what does it relate to? Relate to either the gross body or the mind. That's all these sensuous topics. Mm. They're full of subject matter described in decorative language, full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. So Prabhupada is saying, yeah, they might all be written very nicely, decorative language, but they're still mundane and it's just meant for the body and the mind. Yet with all that, all this beautifully written stuff, they do not glorify the Lord. Such poetry and prose or any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. So such useless literature containing refused remnants of sensuous topics, anything concerning body and mind is useless, dead matter, decoration of a dead body. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swans do not take pleasure in such dead literatures, which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. See such strong statements. These literatures in the mode of passion and ignorance are distributed under different labels, meaning different names, magazines, etc. But they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being, and thus the swan-like spiritually advanced men have nothing to do with them. Such spiritually advanced men are called manasa, also because they always keep up the standard of transcendental voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. So they are advanced because they keep up this service to the Lord. Mm. This completely forbids fruitive activities for gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the materialistic egoistic mind. So if people are always engaged in transcendental voluntary service of the Lord, which happens on the spiritual plane, then they don't have time for fruitive activities for body or mental speculation for the mind. Mm. So we have to engage as much as possible in devotional service, and automatically this nonsense will stop. Yesterday I was meeting a devotee and he was saying, no time. What are you doing? So much of time wasted doing useless things. It's not that they don't have time. People have time for useless things, but they don't have time for useful things that will actually give them happiness. And for that, they don't have time. Right? So they don't have time for voluntary service. We should also not have time for activities of bodily sense satisfaction or mental speculation. Social, literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, politicians who are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure are all dolls of the material energy. And these people are glorified today. All these people are glorified, right? More than devotees. And these people are glorified. Theoretical philosophers, mundane poets. We don't have to name people. You can figure out. Politicians, even mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, they're also completely absorbed in material advancement of sense pleasure. They're all dolls of material energy. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. According to Swami Sridhara, is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. Such a powerful, strong word. Prostitute hunters. That's all. All this, everything else is just can be compared. If you want to feel disgusted about our desire for sense gratification, we can remember such words. Pleasure of prostitute hunters. We'll feel lousy. But literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramahamsas who have grasped the essence of human activities. Mm. So the essence of human activities, human being can be engaged in lots of activities. Uh, the crow-like men can't understand the essence. So they are engaged in the crow-like activities. But Paramahamsas, they have grasped the essence. So they come directly to glorifying the Lord, serving Him. So very powerful. If such purports, it depends on some devotees are stuck with some things. Some devotees are stuck with reading a lot of useless literature, and then they are saying, I'm practicing bhakti but not progress. Obviously, you cannot make progress if you are reading all kinds of useless stuff, associating with people who talk about useless stuff. Then what will happen? Obviously, we cannot make progress. Somebody else was also asking like this. Yeah, only once in a while we eat chocolate. What is the problem? Said, yeah, like that. There'll be one chocolate, one something else, and they'll be like, yeah, it basically means we are giving place for nonsense. Then automatically we will, it will not help us make progress. Um, so our acharyas have given us a method, a way. If we follow it strictly, then there is no doubt we will make progress. We will experience advancement. We'll experience that we are making progress. We'll experience bliss also. We'll experience some taste for the holy name. We'll experience some taste for Shravanam. All of this will happen. But if we are stuck with, just doing things which we are not supposed to do, then it will be very difficult. So the advantage of following rules as they are is that we don't have to unnecessarily fight those things which are not, which are very minor problems. There are bigger problems for us, right? But if we neglect small things, then those things also become an impediment. Already there are bigger problems to deal with. Then we'll add ourselves smaller problems, and just make it more complicated for ourselves. So simple. Just try to follow as many rules as possible. Even after that, we will still have to deal with our conditioning, our material desires, our so many other problems. So that will help us make progress. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. Mike, too. Any comments, questions? Anything? Okay, so after this conversation ends, when Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva to start compiling Bhagavatam, then there is discussion about Narada's previous life, and that is of utmost importance. While everything in Bhagavatam is of utmost importance, that is super utmost importance. It describes the progress of a sadhaka. So everything there will be more and more relevant to our practice of bhakti, and they are also very relevant. I'll read some excerpts from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Okay, there's nothing, then we can close.
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, that means here Vyasadeva was also not a perfect bhakta here. What?
No, Vyasadeva is an incarnation of Krishna himself, right? So Shaktavesha. So he had come with some purpose, right? And so to fulfill that purpose, we should always understand that these great personalities, we should not evaluate them as such. We should understand that they are being used to uh, communicate certain things. Like why was Arjuna put into illusion? Can we say that he was not a perfect devotee? Of course not. He was a perfect devotee, but Lord wanted to put him into illusion so that Bhagavad Gita will come. Parikshit Maharaj, same reason. He fell into illusion and Krishna's desire. So Vyasadeva is also showing to, here intention is also to teach other people who are so attracted by just stuck by just Brahman realization. See, if Vyasadeva was not a perfect devotee, you couldn't have produced Srimad Bhagavatam, right?
Okay.
So he was simply put into that stage temporarily, so that it can become a lesson for grannies who want to just be stuck with Vedanta Sutra. That this is not going to give us actual bliss. This is just the beginning of satisfaction. So come to a personal form of the Lord.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay.
You were telling Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandaprabhu.
When you were telling about bhakti, that from Ramayana there was there is a story from Kag Busundi, and he was doing so much bhakti. Lord himself came, and he said, I okay, everything, you have done so much bhakti, so ask what you want. So Riddhi, Siddhi, he says everything. But he does not say, Lord say, I love you, but he does not say, I am happy with you. Then Kakbhushundi replies, Prabhu, when you say I am happy with you, then you only give bhakti. You are telling moksha, I don't want anything. You should be happy with me, my bhakti, and give me then bhakti. If you won't be happy with me, then you won't give me bhakti. That is only, I want you should be happy from my endeavor, that's all. So I can get your bhakti.
Okay.
So, that is ultimate actually. If Lord is happy, then only he will give us bhakti, as you were telling actually. Otherwise, everything praloba and this will start falling on everything actually.
That is why that bhakti, when we can't say that, yeah, I have done, I've chanted so many rounds in my life, or I have done this, I have done that, so Lord has to give bhakti. No, Lord will give bhakti if he is pleased with us. That is why bhakti is not something that we can achieve. The Damodar Leela is always, we have to keep remembering that it is endeavor, and then mercy has to come.
Mercy.
Mercy has to come, and it is the causeless mercy. Causeless, meaning we cannot say that there's a cause, meaning I put so much of effort, so Krishna has to give. No, Krishna is not obliged to give us. It's just if he is pleased. And when will he be pleased? When he sees how we are dealing with the devotees, our humility, our real internal desire, all that when he sees, and if he sees that we are sincerely trying, then he will give his mercy, right? And no other cause, just causeless. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Nice. Actually, that Brahmbhuta, I couldn't get my attention went somewhere else. Brahmbhuta, you were telling something. What is that actually?
Yeah, so Brahmabhuta is the stage of basically this is mukti, liberation, right? Brahmabhuta prasannatma, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmabhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. So in Bhagavad Gita, the second chapter, there is discussion about Sthita Pragna. That Sthita Pragna is actually a person who is in Brahmabhuta stage, meaning liberated stage. But actually, for Jnani's liberation is the ultimate, but for Bhakta, for Kevala Bhakti, for Shuddha Bhakti, liberation is the beginning of Shuddha Bhakti. Meaning, once a devotee, practicing devotee, reaches Brahmabhuta, then he will actually start performing Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. And Brahmabhuta means na sochati na kankshati, meaning we will not be affected by anything, we are not lamenting for anything material, not are we desiring for anything material. Right? In that stage, a devotee becomes prasannatma, he becomes happy. And then he starts engaging in pure devotional service. And Prabhupada in the purport says that satisfaction is just the beginning of transcendental bliss, because he's just started to engage in pure devotional service. So we should all come to the stage of Brahmabhuta, liberation. For us to come to Brahmabhuta, actually we have to practice. Uh, we have to live life in Sattva-guna. If we live life in Sattva-guna, then we can come to Brahmabhuta. Yeah. Anything else?
Pranam Prabhuji,
Yeah,
like
Pranam.
in the first sloka
Yeah.
with which we start get properly, like what Vyasadev, Srila Vyasadev has written and what he's not written. I couldn't follow that, Prabhuji.
See, he is only mainly written, he is given, he separated the Vedas, then he gave Vedanta Sutra, then he gave other Puranas, etc., etc. But his focus has been mostly Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha in the Vedas. And in Vedanta Sutra, it is basically Brahman. So he's not exclusively described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly.
Okay.
And that is the reason for
Prabhuji,
his lamentation.
okay. Okay. And Vedanta Sutra is apart from the Vedas. It's not commentary on Vedas.
No, Vedanta Sutra is
Like this.
actually, it is a sutra, it is formulae. Vedanta Sutra is Veda Anta. It is actually like, you can say, it's like the summary of the Vedas in sutra form, in short form, Athato Brahma Jignasa. And that is Vedanta Sutra. Now, it's like somebody who's read the subject matter can understand the conclusion, right? But even in the Vedanta Sutra, the focus is more on Brahman, not on Bhagavan. So these are not, I mean, these are just like for Nanis. That is why Bhagavatam was given as a natural commentary to Vedanta Sutra. And that will please every person, because directly glorifying Krishna or the Supreme Lord is actually the what will satisfy the soul and also the Lord, which Srila Vyasadeva had not done, in as much as he had described Dharmartha Kama Moksha or Brahman. He had mentioned about the Lord here and there, passing comments, not very in detail, and that is why Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam is commentary on
compiled.
Vedanta Sutra. Okay, okay. And
Yeah, it's
Prabhuji,
considered as natural
Puranas
commentary.
and these Puranas and Upanishads, how are they different from Vedas? And everything was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva only.
Yeah, but everything has like, see, basically we have to understand that Vedas. So originally there was one Veda, then Vyasadeva split it into four. As part of every Veda, there are four parts: Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, and what is that? Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad. There's one more. I can't remember. So Upanishads are all part.
Visheshika something.
Huh?
Visheshika.
No. I can't remember. Okay. So Upanishads are part of all the Vedas have Upanishads. The Upanishads are actually the conclusion of the Vedas, in the sense that that is where Upasana, that is where spiritual knowledge starts, in the Upanishads. Right now, but these are all, this is called Shruti. Right? Shruti, for only Brahmanas can read and understand Shruti. It's not for ordinary human beings. So then what rishis and Munis did was they gave Smriti. Smriti means these are qualified professors, as Prabhupada calls them, who understands Vedas and then presents them in a form for ordinary people like us to understand. And they are the Puranas and the Itihasa. The Puranas and Itihasas are actually the conclusions, or they give the purports of the Vedas only, but in a way that can be more easily understood by normal people like us, not like qualified. We were not qualified for, we don't understand Sanskrit. We have not read so much of Shastra, but still for us, the conclusions can be got. That is why Panchama, it's called the Panchama Veda. Puranas and Itihasas are called Panchama Veda. So Vedanta Sutra is for those, the first section, the Shruti Vadis, right, who read the Shruti. And the Shruti people, they don't want to accept Puranas and Itihasas. They say it's not authentic, but it's not true. Puranas and Itihasa is also authentic because Bhagavatam calls them the Panchama Veda, but it is for less qualified people like us. But Vedanta Sutra is for really philosophical brains, right, who are very qualified, only can read and understand Vedanta Sutra. That's why Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya started explaining Vedanta Sutras, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I understand Vedanta Sutra, I don't understand what you are saying. It's not easy because it's like sutra, that's all, right? Like 3 words. You can conclude whatever you want to conclude from that. Right? So that is why it results in a lot of misrepresentation, misinterpretation. Puranas and Itihasas are safer because it is supported. It's like Prabhupada is writing commentary. It's like that.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Dandavat Pranam, Hare.
Okay, then. Anything else? Okay. So we'll stop here.